Heidi Ho, this time from Olympic National Park. This will be our 51st National Park visit. It's going to be a little bit different for us. I'm actually in town for a conference for work. We've extended into the weekend here just a little bit to make a trip out here. But that means we don't have our normal setup, our normal gear, or anything. We're in a rental car. We swung by the grocery store to buy a cooler so that we could stay out and keep our days longer. We hope to make the most of this few days. Let's get it all going right now.
Since there are no roads going through the park and with its size, I chose to use travel times to determine the order of stops for our visit. First up, the main visitor center in Port Angeles, before heading out Hurricane Ridge Road, which opened at 9 a.m. At the end of this 17-mile-long scenic road was our late morning hike, Hurricane Hill Trail. The mostly paved trail is a constant climb with more than 850 feet of elevation gain. It winds through subalpine meadows and offers panoramic views of the Olympic Mountains, including Mount Olympus. We finished with 3.7 miles. As we drove back out Hurricane Ridge Road, we stopped to check out the empty concrete area where the visitor center once stood. It burned down in May of 2023 while it was being renovated. There are several hikes, long and short, in this area, but we were running a little behind schedule for other stops we had along the way to our Airbnb. So we continued out the scenic drive, stopping at several of the overlooks on the way out. Our next stop was a short out and back hike to Madison Falls. Located in the Elwha Valley, the Madison Falls Trail winds through lush vegetation characteristic of the Pacific Northwest before culminating at a 50-foot cascading waterfall surrounded by moss-covered rocks and greenery. At 0.4 of a mile, this is a lovely trail for all ages and levels. Back on US 101, we continued working our way around the north and west sides of the park. We continued mentally noting where some of the attractions were for the following days. By this time, we wanted to get to the coastal area for our sunset stop on Ruby Beach. I chose Ruby Beach due to the rock stacks along the shoreline, but I wasn't sure if the tide level would be in a good position to explore. Luckily it was. We walked along the beach, grabbed a few pictures, and walked back to the car to keep moving to our Airbnb located in the southeast area of the park. We were up early to make the drive to the Quinault Beach area to visit the Tree of Life. This iconic Sitka spruce is remarkable for its precarious position and resilience as it hangs dramatically over a small erosion-formed cave with its roots exposed and dangling in midair. It is definitely an inspiring sight to see and is only a short walk from the parking lot by Quinault Campground.
Yesterday was an absolutely lovely first day here at Olympic with a little bit of mix of activities. We started with the high elevation up there on Hurricane Hill. Then we came down to some waterfalls, really very close walk there to Madison Falls. And then we finished up on Ruby Beach. The intent was to stay there for sunset, but we recognized The warm glows of the pre-sunset actually offered better lighting, so then we made a run for our Airbnb. I'll show you a picture of that. So that is a lovely little Airbnb that we've got a little cottage. It's a little further out. And one thing I'll say as we've driven around a good bit, if you're coming here, anticipate a significant amount of driving.
Yes.
And the drive times feel longer. Alana and I was thinking, this is the longest hour and a half I've ever driven. And Alana said, right? Like it just hits somehow differently. And every drive seems a little bit longer. Anyway, plan on quite a bit of driving when you visit. Today you've already seen some footage of our very early start here at the Tree of Life, but you've got some extra stuff planned for us. So what are we doing here today, Alana?
We are headed to the Hoh Rainforest area, and then we are going to do the Mount Storm King hike for sunset at the top.
All right, that sounds absolutely fabulous. Is there any possibility that you are able to gaze upon some really large wood today?
Probably a good chance.
Let's go see some big trees.
After another jaunt on US 101, we checked out the Big Cedar Nature Trail and the Big Cedar. These are two different places showcasing a large cedar tree, one right off of the main highway and the other a drive into the nearby national forest. I'd seen enough large wood, so we continued on to our next area to explore for the day. As we traveled along the 18-mile-long Upper Hoh Road, we were in awe of the old-growth forest with towering trees, dense vegetation, and moss-draped branches lining the route. I chose to do the two most popular hikes for this area, the Hall of Mosses and the Spruce Nature Trail. At 0.8 and 1.2 miles respectively, they are both easy walks through the dense forest draped with mosses, showcasing the rainforest's unique ecosystem and the Hoh River. We walked through the visitor center before heading to our evening hike near Lake Crescent. Olympic National Park covers approximately 920,000 acres and is stunningly diverse. It showcases 4 distinct ecosystems: subalpine forests and wildflower meadows, temperate rainforest, the Pacific coastline, and drier east side forests. Our plan was to watch the sunset from the summit of Mount Storm King, so we needed to get on the trail before it was too late. We opted to hike out to Marimere Falls first, which is a 90-foot cascade over a moss-covered cliff into a serene pool below. This added about a mile, but was well worth it. We took the turn for Mount Storm King and started the constant climb in elevation, over 2,400 feet in total actually. The last quarter mile was so steep that you needed ropes to climb up with a rock scramble at the end. The view of Lake Crescent was breathtaking from the summit. With the difficulty of climbing up, we decided it would be best to start back down the trail before the sun sets. We still finished the trail with our headlamps and continuously talking to ward off animals and Sasquatch, of course.
Well, yesterday wrapped up on the trail for us so late that we didn't do a wrap-up or conclusion of the day. I thoroughly enjoyed it. How about you?
It was lovely.
Yeah, what was your favorite part?
The adventurous trail.
Yeah, the what was that? Mount Storm King.
Yes.
That is a king of a trail. It's a little bit. It's right about 4 miles. I don't know exactly what our mileage ended up being. I'll put it down here below. But it comes with 2,000 feet, maybe a little more again, of elevation gain. Basically, from the time you leave your car, or by the time you leave and start the trail, it's up, and it's a climb the entire way, and then it ends quite literally with a climb and a rock scramble with some ropes. But what an amazing view. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We drove back. It was we're a little far away from there, so it took us quite a bit of time to get back, and we are trying to head back to that area now, to the Sole Duck area.
Yep, Sole Duck. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're headed that way now. I think it's going to be a little rainy today, but we're going to make the most of it.
Yep.
Sole Duck Hot Springs Road is 12 miles long, winding through another rainforest area of Olympic National Park, and has the famous Sole Duck Lodge and natural hot springs. We weren't interested in the hot springs, so we headed to the Sole Duck Falls trailhead. At 1.2 miles, this is a popular trail for the area. It is well maintained and culminates at a stunning 3-pronged waterfall plunging into a narrow gorge. There are longer trails in the area if you are interested. We made our way back out the road and stopped off at a few of the pull-offs we had skipped. One of them turned out to be the hidden gem of the trip, Ancient Grove Nature Trail. This trail had the best example of the stages within a rainforest, with large old growth trees and nurse logs for young trees. Another stop was the Salmon Cascades Overlook. This is a popular hangout to watch the salmon jump up the falls. The Sole Duck is one of the few places where salmon run in every season. Our sunset spot for our last night in the park was Hole in the Wall near Rialto Beach. Accessing this location is very tide dependent and needs to be at a low tide below 2 feet for access and tide pools. No matter the tide level, there is a quick flowing stream to cross that may or may not have a dry way. The 3.5 mile round trip beach hike was well worth the wet feet.
Well, I think that is going to wrap up our day. Started out a little rainy and gloomy, but I don't think you've actually visited a rainforest unless you've been rained on, at least
Right.
sometime during your visit. But as you can see, the sun has come out and it actually
Lovely.
has finished quite nicely.
Yes.
The surprise of the day.
The Ancient Groves Nature Trail.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
only like a half mile, but it was
Oh, yeah.
just one of the neatest little walks. It was totally a bonus, like Alana already mentioned in voiceover there. But it was nice to have made time
Yep.
for it. It was, like I say, the surprise of the day. Now, we're not done yet. We've got some stuff planned tomorrow morning.
Yes.
What's that, Alana?
We are going to be hiking in the Quinault area, hopefully that is said right, and the Staircase area.
That's right.
We wanted to go out with a bang for our last day, so we visited two of the southern areas of the park for some hiking. The Quinault area of the Olympic National Park is a lush and tranquil region often referred to as the Valley of the Rainforest Giants due to its towering trees and dense vegetation. Centered around Lake Quinault and the Quinault Rainforest, this area offers a mix of serene natural beauty, diverse hiking opportunities, and a rich history tied to the local Quinault Indian Nation. The scenic Quinault Loop Drive is 31 miles and encircles the lake, passing through lush forest, waterfalls, and historic sites like the Kessner Homestead. Hiking trails range from half a mile to multi-day in this area of the park. Our 4.5-mile loop hike started at the ranger station and was mostly within the dense old-growth conifer forest with a lush understory of rainforest vegetation. A small portion went in front of the Quinault Lodge, which was built in 1926, and along the south shore of the glacier-carved Quinault Lake. The Staircase area is renowned for its old-growth forests, the North Fork Skokomish River, and a variety of hiking trails that cater to different skill levels. We chose to hike the Staircase Rapids Loop for our last lake stretcher. The trail meandered through old-growth forests along the river, featuring lush understories of mosses and ferns.
The sun has not only set over Olympic National Park, but it has also set on our trip. We have now wrapped everything up here that at least we have time for. Final thoughts, Alana?
I thought it was a wonderful park. I'm glad we added extra days to get the visit in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It was just so neat, from the massive trees down to the little teeny tiny mushrooms. There was just so much diversity and things to really visually experience. We were here 4 days,
Yes.
and they were full 4 days.
Yes.
We feel like that is sort of a minimum visit because we kind of kept it to the touristy, popular spots and
Yes.
filled those days,
Yep.
often starting in the dark and often ending in the dark.
Yes.
While the days are shorter, they were still 16-hour-ish
Yes.
days. So we do feel like a longer visit would be well warranted here.
Yeah.
Partially because of how spread out the park is, as well as the areas are, but there's so much more to do and experience here. Especially if you have a van or an overlanding type of vehicle to be able to camp and stay in the forest, and all of the also well-established campgrounds
Yes.
that are all throughout the park, I think would be an amazing, amazing trip to spend up to a month here without touching the same thing twice. Like I said, we're done. Hopefully you enjoyed all the content, all the footage that we took. It's time for me now to get to work. I've got to head to a conference and then back on a plane back home. We'll see you into something there.